Hey, Rich doesn't Homestead. How the heck are you? Yeah, it's Monday again, isn't it? Crazy. Anyway, why don't you run around, grab yourself a cup of coffee? I got mine here, or if I can go have some of it, and then scamper on back, and we'll get to this. All right. Okay, here we go. Uh, I hadn't been out on YouTube much this past week or so, but I ran across one video that Danny had put up where he'd had some soil samples done down at his place, and good idea, you know, get to know what's going on in that dirt. I understand that when you send it off to most of these labs, you pretty much get what they call a soluble, uh, what soluble nutritions and minerals are in your soil, more or less what the plant can pick up. It doesn't take the biology into play. Okay? There's another test out there that's a lot more detailed that now just tells you what you have soluble, but also what's there. Okay? And basically, it's telling you this is what the microbiology can get out of what you have laying on your ground right now. Nah. Okay, because you may look and go, I don't need to put anything in there. I need to fix my biology. Do? Yeah, you do. Because I'll tell you what ends up happening when your biology in your soil gets weakened. Okay, then you start having what they call grazing nematoids pop up more and more and more. They're lacking the predators that is also supposed to be in your soil, which is usually a kind of a rule of thumb that something's going on down there and you don't have the right biology working for you. Now, they do have a test where you can send that out, have your soil tested for microbial life. And, that'll give you here's where you're at. Okay. Here's your counts of this one or that one or the other one. Okay. And if your biology starts degrading some, you're going to see stuff like your grazing nematoids show up, which these are the root feeding nematoids that eat your plant root, do damage to your plant. Well, there's another nematode that is one of the more good microbiology for your plants that if it's in equal numbers will feed on that grazer. It's their food. All right. So that tells you immediately if you start having that kind of problems, okay, I got to work on my biology. Something's going on here because that is the beginning signs of your biology's having some sort of problem down there and it's weakening. Okay. Because if you've got good biology working, natural biology going, it's balanced out. Okay, it might flare its ugly little head now and again, but it's quickly taken over by the back over again. So, keep that one in mind. So really there's three different types of soil testing. The Haney test would probably be the best one for you because it gives you not only your soluble, but also the other side of what nutrients are actually in that soil. That with the correct, if your biology is working, your plants would have that available to them. Okay, keep that in mind. So the Haney test is a real good one. I'm after seeing some of the results of it, I'm pretty impressed with it. And it's fairly new. Eventually, I guess all the labs would be doing it, but you want to ask your lab, can you do the Haney soil test and not the standard? If they can't, see if you can find another lab that does. All right. I bet if you got out online, you could do a little shopping around and find one that gives you the Haney test. So please do that. And it's a good idea, if you're having problems, with, anything that you might suspect might be, something like a grazing nematode in your soil where you're starting to see root damage and your plants aren't doing real well from it. that's a sign your biology is making a turn for the worst. Okay, and if you don't get it corrected, okay, then you're gonna all of a sudden turn out with pathogens and all sorts of stuff down there in that soil. Your good biology's having a problem. Not enough food, chemicals being used on it, whatever, it's creating a problem for it. So, every now and again it's a good idea to go take samples and go ahead and get it checked for the biology, what's in there. And they literally put a little bit of it on a glass, and that's what course I'm taking now, and take a microscope and get in there and start counting bodies. Seriously, they want to see what you got in there. And so I've just been learning the difference in the different nematoids of how they you can tell them by the shape of their mouth. Yeah, it's kind of wild. But anyway, yeah, kind of exciting. So keep those sort of things in mind when you're getting soil samples done. Your biology is important. That's what is going to bring your soil to life. That's where you're going to get off the synthetics. Where you're not. Because let's face it, I mean, if things get as bad as they could possibly get, and everybody's worried about, will we have fuel? Will we have this? Will we have that? Well, I can guarantee you won't have fertilizer. Because that's going to go down when you start having fuel problems. Okay? So if you've made your soil dependent on fertilizer, that's kind of like, a drug addiction to the soil. It doesn't have the ability to continue to produce without that fix, Now you can do a lot of things with your cover crops and so forth to try to get the nutrients down there for your plants. But you need that biology to make it all work. And slowly start cutting back on what input you have, because that's just money out of your pocket. Okay? Seriously. Yeah, it's money out of your pocket. You already got to buy the seed, unless you've been saving seed for the last 20 years. So why not wean the soil off of the chemicals? Get rid of its drug addiction. Okay? And the only way you're going to know that is to verify, what do I have in my soil right now, today? And what do I need to do to make it right? That's simple. Because, you take a root feeding nematode. If your mycorrhizal is properly interacting and forming that symbiotic relationship with the plant, those little suckers will snare them up and keep them away from the root. They protect that plant. All right, it's kind of wild. It's like, you get here getting into my food, and so it can't. While the fungi can't kill it, what it does is entraps it, and either starves it to death, or something else comes along like a predator nematode and eats it. Okay, either way, they've gotten rid of that problem, right? That's what the good biology does for you. Kind of keep that in mind. So you want to know what's going on in that soil. Good test to have run, and more and more people are setting up to do that kind of a test, because most of the universities don't, unless you got a real good ag department there. Okay, so that'd be the two I'd run if you haven't ever tested your soil, is get them to do the Haney soil test on the thing. It's named after Dr. Haney. And then get the biology in your soil tested. And they'll give you a complete breakdown of how much of this stuff you should have about every square inch in your soil. Okay, it's kind of cool. So, hope this helps with you kind of planning out your week, and some ideas you might have. But do that, because I always remember your standard soil tests, and I've used them for a lot of years, guilty as charged. But I also knew about the biology end of it. So I used them more to test and see where I'm at in my soil, because if all of a sudden my biology's messed up, then I got to change my mixes and so forth for what, if I'm lacking nitrogen, I need to plant plants to get it back in there, you know, things of that nature. So now and again, if I needed it on the cheap, that's what I do. But you got to know that the soil biology is good and solid. Keep that in mind as you're looking at that stuff. And if it's your first round of testing on soil, go for the Haney test, and then also have a microbial soil sample tested. And that way you know what you have underneath there and what you need to do to fix it. If you've been using synthetic fertilizers, that damages your microbiology in your soil. Doesn't necessarily wipe it all out, but it damages it. Okay? You don't want it damaged. If it's damaged, then you get predators in there. See where I'm at? If they're healthy and the good guys are in charge, your plants are going to do just fine. And if you are smart enough to keep your cover crops, putting the nutrients back in and pulling up the nutrients back up in that upper layer of soil, things of that nature, following the regenerative agriculture style of doing things, that is going to be when you get your soil right. All right, you can go back and you don't worry about, oh gee, they're not shipping fertilizer. Who needs it? You have your own. Okay. And some of them just laid me some eggs, so I'm going to go have some. That's it, folks. Do it nature's way. But do get those other soil tests done, because they will tell you where you're at. Okay? All right. Y'all have a great week. And I mean it. I mean that. You get there and have a good week. Love you guys and appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.